Hi, it's Martin from Mellor Financial Management. And with me this morning, I'm delighted to welcome Andy Jack from Candle Digital. Hi, Andy.
Hello. Hello, Martin.
Andy, do you want to just give a brief intro to you and to Candle? Obviously, you've got your logo behind you there, but it'd be great to just tell people a little bit more about what you guys do.
Yeah, sure. So at Candle Digital, we work with small to mid-sized commercial training providers, and we help them take their expertise online. So typically that's in the form of online academies, online courses, resource banks. It's all about capturing that expertise and digitizing it and using that to grow your revenues and grow your product set. So we help kind of clients in various different ways. The first one is consultancy piece. So taking your training online, there's quite a lot to it. And what we can do is we can help create a blueprint for that, a roadmap for success. Subject to us being a good partner to help you execute that, we can also build that for you as well. So we do a lot around content creation, learning experience design, and the technological platform that will sit on. And then we also as well help our partners turn it into a commercial success. So once you've got this product, how can you make the most out of it? And that's, in essence, that's the whole kind of end-to-end support and that we offer.
Yeah, and that's exactly the experience that I've had. So Andy and his business partner Mark and I first started chatting, I think in 2019, maybe even 2018, and it kind of coincided with the fact that me as a financial training provider was already pre-pandemic running training sessions, what we'd call live online. So using the kind of technology that we're using here to record this chat and delivering sessions. And that technology is brilliant. And those sessions work, and they were an absolute lifeline, certainly through the early stages of the pandemic. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I'd also reached the conclusion that I felt that there ought to be a different or a better way, or there could be a more enhanced way of people learning, particularly the sorts of stuff that we deliver online. So it was the feeling that actually what the market in general was delivering as online training was taking what people would consume face-to-face in a room at a live workshop, which has obviously historically been by far and away the kind of biggest market for training providers. And they were just simply taking the same slides, putting them through the kind of camera, through the webcam, and delivering effectively the same stuff. And we started talking, didn't we, Andy, as I say, I think it was 2019, about the fact that there was potentially other ways that we could look at that. And we went through exactly the process that you've described, where we did one of your discovery days, and Andy and Mark have been a great sounding board for me throughout this process, kind of testing my thinking, testing what we're trying to achieve, different ways that we can achieve that. So as I say, pre-pandemic, we went through a process where we assessed what it was that we were delivering, what it was that we were trying to do, and how we might deliver that differently in an online market. And what we created collaboratively, so I chose to execute with Candle, as Andy's described. What we executed was a self-study system, wasn't it? And you can talk a bit more about the kind of technical side of that and some of the things that we went through. But I think what was critical and what you were brilliant at through that process was always trying to put the learner at the heart of that journey. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think it was. And I think one of the light bulbs moments for us was, why are people learning this stuff? And I think it was all, for me, it all came down to these people having confidence and being able to engage in conversations about finance with confidence, and having the kind of technical understanding of accounts and financial jargon to be able to have those conversations with confidence. So the approach that we took was a scenario-based online training course. So I think some training courses fall into the trap of having what we call the sage on the stage. So it's almost pouring knowledge into people's heads. We took a slightly different approach to it, and what we've done is we've crafted an experience where a learner will understand the context of 4 different types of business. So we have sole trader, we have private limited company, we have a public company, and they discover scenarios that those people find themselves in, and they're actually, as a learner, they're supporting those characters with their problems. And so we given that it was all about being able to have confident conversations about finance, we felt that was an appropriate way to deliver that. And the response has been great from the learners we've had on the course. And I think it's quite a different approach that people perhaps don't expect from something around, you know, what is in essence is around financial competency and literacy.
Absolutely. And as you say, it's out there, it's working, people are using it, people are engaging with it, which is brilliant. But I think we also both felt, and you highlighted in your intro, something that's kind of a critical element or a real USP, I think, in the service that Candle provide is that desire to commercialize what you're providing for trainers. And I think we both, I think if you'd asked me 2.5 years ago, what did I see as the main benefit of this system? It wasn't the how you learn, it wasn't the what you learn. It was the idea that what I really wanted people to have was that they learned on their own terms, so that they could engage with it as and how they wanted. And I kind of talked about this almost mythical. You're going to a particular meeting and you want to be able to just dust up on that specific area. And what we've developed, it's hosted in the cloud, you access it through a browser, so therefore you can access it from your phone, you can access it from your tablet whilst you're traveling on a train. And it was that idea that people would be able to engage with it in that way, in bite-sized chunks, and come and go from it as they saw fit. But I think what we found as a user experience, and I think we almost, you were probably slightly quicker at coming to this conclusion than me, Andy, was that actually that's brilliant and that does work for some people. But what loads of other people need and want and are looking for is a sense of accountability and stuff to help hold their hand through that process. So it isn't that learning and digesting stuff in a self-paced way doesn't work, but actually there could be an even better way of doing this. And I think this is when we first started talking about blended learning.
Yeah, I mean, self-study or on-demand online learning, one of the biggest benefits to that is that it's available for the learner anytime and anywhere, but that could almost be the thorn in its side because, you know, particularly in the world that we live now, there's so much stuff competing for our attention. And I think that's been expedited with COVID and the pandemic, is that, you know, people are spending a lot more time, or have been spending a lot more time online staring at a laptop. So the motivation to therefore then go and do an online course, which might not be seen as beneficial but not essential, can be difficult and can be a challenge. And that, I think that all, as you say, it works for some people, it doesn't work for others, and that's all about understanding your audience. I think for me, blended learning is that natural sweet spot between on-demand e-learning and live online. So one of them involves, in terms of the tutor, really kind of zero time, and one involves 100% of the time. Blended learning, I see is kind of the best of the both worlds. So blended learning, from my perspective, can be in lots of different formats and modalities, but it's really what we're working on is a blended learning format that involves on-demand e-learning, self-study materials with live group calls delivered through Zoom. And what that does is it still gives people the flexibility to study when they want, but it brings some accountability and motivation on a weekly basis to make sure that they're fully up to speed with what's being taught, and they digest the materials and have something to contribute. And I think blended learning as well brings structure.
Yeah.
So you can deliver these weekly calls every week, which helps you get into a kind of a rhythm in terms of your studying and your learning. But it also, one of the biggest benefits, it also gives you a chance to collaborate and connect with your peers.
Definitely. I think that's massive, and it's a massive element, and I think it's where you have these light bulb moments along the way, isn't it? So as a training provider, what I'm now saying is I'm giving you a full breadth of choice. So you can still choose to go with a face-to-face option. You can come to a face-to-face course if that's what you want. You can say, do you know what? I don't need to be face-to-face, but I still like the idea of time boxing it into one day and doing a live online session. And I like the idea of collaboration. And you hit on, as you said, as we went through the kind of discovery process together, it became really apparent, didn't it, actually, that it's that difference between the nuts and bolts of what we're giving people is understanding. But what we're doing more than that is increasing their confidence and their ability to talk about things and to have better conversations. And of course, that's some of the stuff that you get either interacting as a group face to face, interacting as a group live online. Clearly, the facilitation of that is critical.
Yeah.
But that's what you don't get in the self-study. So self-study gives you the ability to pace it yourself. And therefore, now in offering blended, it feels like we're offering the full suite of options that a learner might want to choose from. And I genuinely believe that blended is the future. I genuinely believe that more and more people will move to this. And I think, so when we've started to kind of look at what it is, well actually the mechanics of what we're delivering remain the same. We've got video, we've got gamification, it's called, we've got quizzes, we've got interactive, we've got the scenario characters that you talked about. But what we've spent a lot of time on, haven't we, collaboratively, is how do we break that up? And what are the natural and logical stopping points to then allow people to just put their foot on the ball and come back together and have a conversation. And one of the things that I would always say in a workshop when I'm actually talking to people is, there are no silly questions. Ask anything that comes into your head, because chances are someone else in the room is thinking the same thing. Well, blended gives the perfect opportunity to do that, doesn't it? And you're doing it in these more bite-sized chunks. And that's some of the stuff that you guys are great at, is the technical facilitation of the structure that enables people to achieve those learning outcomes.
Yeah, I think so. And on the back of it, we've been able to develop a technical structure that allows you to spin up different cohorts very quickly. So for example, if you're running a March course and you want to use that same workflow, so that same series of kind of learning interventions throughout the month, then you can easily take that, spin that up, adjust a few dates, and then it works for your next cohort. So I think I'm really excited about where blended learning's going. It feels like a natural evolution, but I think having the structural aspects underneath it really help the learner. I think the social aspects, being able to connect with the tutor and get your insights, being able to share stories and understand the context of other learners, is really quite powerful. And I think it has a lot of benefits for the training provider as well, like yourself, particularly around marketing. I think it's increasingly difficult to monetize content. Unless you've got a massive audience. But if you're marketing a March course, all of a sudden that creates a sense of scarcity and urgency, and it helps in terms of trying to drive attention to what you're doing and encouraging people to take action to join the course. So I think from a training provider's perspective, it opens up a lot of new kind of commercial opportunities.
Oh, definitely. And I think it hits a real sweet spot. So I think the regularity. So what we're asking people to do is, we're sort of saying, can you give us a commitment of a couple of hours a week for 4 weeks? Nothing more than that, nothing less than that. And an hour of that, roughly speaking, is going to be a group session, and an hour of that, roughly speaking, is going to be you working on your own. Now, if you choose to go and do more, you absolutely can. But that's the kind of minimum level of commitment. We're giving that accountability, we're giving that sense of camaraderie, we're giving that sense of group achievement, accountability. It's applicable in so many elements of business today. And as you say, there's so much competing for our attention. So we're not saying you need to book a day out of your diary. We're not saying you need to book 2 days out of your diary. We're giving you that drip feed. We're giving you that hand holding. And I'm really excited to see where it takes us. Unfortunately, we can't kind of talk too much about it, but we are working on a rollout of this that's not insignificant. So we're talking about rolling this out across a 3-year period to a major organization in this country. And I'm really, really excited to see the kind of power of where that can take us. And like all these things, we said when we set out on the journey with the self-paced system, it was a start, it wasn't the end. It was a proof of concept, it was a beta version initially, it wasn't the end state. And I think the same is true of blended. Blended, there's no doubt technology will change, people's consumption behavior will change, but it feels like this is the right answer for so many people, because actually, whilst they might find this stuff useful, interesting, it isn't the most exciting. No matter how we dress it up, finance training isn't the most exciting stuff in the world, but there are those real positive benefits that we can give people, and the blended journey is a way to do that. So yeah, really exciting stuff.
Excellent. I think just to add to that, I think it's just the longer term aspects as well. So, you know, one thing that we did right at the beginning is provide a lot of resources to learners. So once they've completed their self-paced course, they can access stuff that's really going to help them at that point of need, whether that be a month down the line, 3-6 months. I think one thing I'm really excited about around the blended learning piece is being able to expand that beyond the training. So we're talking about how can we provide email nudges just to keep what they've learned front of mind over the next 6 to 12 months. But I think also the connections that they're going to build with other learners, or their peers, on the other participants on the course, just kind of builds that fabric and make sure they've got a support system there to help each other beyond Martin Mellor's involvement.
And that's so true, isn't it? If the last couple of years has taught us nothing, it's taught us the power of community. And so we might all be working in a slightly different way. You know, you're in your office, I'm in my home office. We've done a lot of collaboration face-to-face in the early days, but we've then done a lot online via video conferencing. But I think we all know and feel the benefits of collaboration over isolation. It doesn't mean it's not appropriate at times to be working on your own or working at home, but bringing people together and fostering that community, that safe environment, that ability, as I say, to ask what might feel like a really obvious or silly question. It's one of the biggest barriers to people actually getting their head around this stuff, is they feel they can't ask. Yeah. So what we're doing is we're breaking that down, and we're giving you all the tools, all the resource. And as you say, not only so often face-to-face and one-day workshops are great, but what's the impact afterwards? You know, how long do people actually remember it and apply it? And the reality of the situation is that varies significantly based on the individual. Whereas with this, we're giving the opportunity to not only have a real ongoing impact, but also actually to be able to measure that ongoing impact. And that has huge power, doesn't it? As we all know, data is power, isn't it, for decision making in businesses? And we potentially have a data set here.
And if you're going back to your client in 1-2 years' time, having, you know, a more evidence-based approach rather than happy sheets, certainly gives you a stronger business case to get that business again. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Andy, that's been great. Much appreciate your time, and as I say, really excited about what the future holds with blended learning. Any final comments from you, or final thoughts on kind of where the training market's at?
I think it's ever evolving. I don't think it ever stands still. I think there's a huge amount of untapped potential. I think if you look at some of the trend reports, there's a lot more talk around kind of areas such as adaptive learning and personalization, which hopefully will start to come through as the technology can provide that. But yeah, it's just an exciting time to be part of it. I think COVID and the pandemic has forced a lot of training providers to digitally transform and embrace this. So I still think we're still seeing some of it washing out in terms of what that actually means. But I think that's a great opportunity. And if anything, I think it means that the impact on the learners is just going to get better and better and more measurable over time. So yeah, exciting times.
Fantastic. Well, as I say, thanks very much, Andy. And certainly for any other training providers out there, I'd heartily recommend Andy and Mark at Candle. See them as really valuable members of my team, my extended team. Continue to add value, and certainly, you know, we're only part of the way along the journey of what I'm looking to do with this stuff. And Andy's been a great sounding board through that. So if any of you are thinking about it, I'd certainly recommend a conversation.
Brilliant, thanks.
All right. Thanks very much.